Well, I guess we really know now why Gavin Newsom was such a BYD fan in one of those electric buses built in California, and why he was pushing so hard to get rid of gasoline cars by 2030. Because it looks like Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, while in office, may have taken in upwards of $30 million from a Chinese company tied to Chinese nationals here in the US. Holy crap. Yeah, I can see why Gavin Newsom would be worried now. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this. Guys, we're getting in for a quick word from our sponsors. Again, Delete Me. They sponsor us every month. I 100% love them as a product and a program. So let's get into this. So, I started looking into how much of my personal info is online, and it's way more than you would expect. There are these things that they call data brokers, and some of the worst ones are people search sites. They basically build full profiles on you. Name, phone number, past addresses, even relatives, and they just sell access to it. Once your personal info is sitting in these data broker sites, you really don't know who has control of it, who accesses it, or how it's even used. And again, we're talking about real details. Addresses, phone numbers, relatives. That's why Delete Me exists. They've been doing this for over 15 years. And what they do is they remove your data from hundreds of those broker sites and keep monitoring it over time. So it's not like a one-time thing. They even have real privacy advisors if you need help with specific situations, which is something I didn't expect. Here's my report. I'm going to pop it up on the display. I pop it up every time we talk about it every month. It's pretty eye-opening how much of it was out there and how much is removed from all of these sites. For me, it's about reducing risk and making it harder for that info to spread. If you want to check it out, you can go to joindeleteme.com/TK Garage and use the code TK Garage for 20% off. Links in the description, and if you haven't seen it, it's already been up on the screen, as is the QR code. All right, let's get back to today's video. So major shout out to our sponsors, Delete Me again for sponsoring today's video. But, think about that, man, right? You have an ethics investigation that is done by an independent, obviously they're not Republican, right? But done by the state. It's not the feds. And Newsom's trying to spin this like, oh, well, the people that are doing the ethics cases are all conservatives. No, they're not. There's one registered Republican on the list. Everybody else involved is Democrats. All of them. You can't use that as an excuse. And, he tried to push the narrative and the media was picking it up. Now the media looks dumb. See, here's the problem with the press today, is the press doesn't do their fucking job. And what I mean by that is they don't investigate the facts. Newsom was running with the fact that, the U.S. attorney for the Middle District of California has it out for him since he was an assemblyman in the state of California. Do they get along? No. Could I see Newsom saying it was political if that was the case? Maybe. The investigation started when Biden was still president. Those claims are not valid. The investigation, especially what's going on with grant money, this is so bad for Newsom. It has to do with grant money from the California Air Resource Board, right? It has to do with BYD, a Chinese company, and two Chinese nationals that Newsom, according to this ethics investigation, got upwards of $30 million from. That's a problem. And then it has to do with his wife's 501c3 or a 501c3 that she's tied to and gets paid as a contractor that Newsom basically funnels through. Now, why is all this coming to light? As I talked about in a previous video, his chief of staff was arrested and convicted, pled guilty to pay-for-play corruption, and has now done, if you look up the, obviously, like, her records are still sealed, but what this basically is she's going to try to get no jail time. So she's going for what they call a 5K1. And what that means is she's telling on everything. And what that involves is she has to give up contacts, sources, communications, anything that she can bring back to help the feds with their case. And as soon as she turned state's evidence, that's when you started to see Newsom get weird. And I think he tried to get out ahead of this by saying, this is all a political hit job. This is a political prosecution, which I could agree with if it had started out of DC. It didn't start out of DC. It started in Sacramento under the Biden administration, under a U.S. attorney appointed by Obama. So Gavin Newsom's excuse falls on flat, dead ears. What we didn't know is we knew that BYD was giving them money, but we didn't know how much. And now everything from the California Air Resource Board to smog regulations to emissions regulations in the state of California is tainted. It's all tainted because now it all can be tied back, especially these new stringent standards that California is trying to push, to Gavin Newsom and his pay-for-play scam, his absolute corrupt. Could you imagine if that guy actually was I don't think he can run for president now, but could you imagine if he actually ran for president? He might still try, who knows, right? But could you imagine if that guy ran for president and then had access to the presidency? Holy crap. Think about this, not the rail to nowhere where billions of Americans, not just California, federal tax money disappeared. $26 billion to the California Air Resource Board in grants to replace engines with EVs and all this other crap that they have no record, they have nothing to backtrack and show what this money was used for. And now you have the ethics committee coming down and fining Gavin Newsom, not once, but twice. Over 30 grand in total for ethics violations. Now, why are we talking about this on an automotive channel, right? It all comes back to the emissions. It comes back to, there's a reason. Do you think magically the California Air Resource Board or Newsom backtracked to let Hellcats come back, the Hellcat Durango and some of these other Hellcat and SRT models get sold in California? You think that just happened? No. He knew the heat was on back then, months ago, when I said, and we reported on this months ago, that the California Air Resource Board had a visit by the FBI, and they were picking up computers and documents, and it was all tied back to his chief of staff's investigation, which is now tied to Newsom. I told you so. The positive thing about this story is it could result in the California Air Resource Board having its power stripped even before the pending congressional review acts or anything else go through. So that is one of the positive things about this. But I leave the question to you. Do you think this disqualifies him as running for president? And I know that I already know the comments are going to be like, well, Trump ran for president, he's a felon. I don't care. Let Gavin run. It's going to be easy to beat him. Easy to beat him. With this record, I literally just show the record of the state of California. You went from the 4th largest economy in the world to now they're projecting 9th. I never want to ever hear Gavin Newsom talk about the 4th largest economy. Miss me with that. You've raised taxes over and over and over and over and over and over again. You still have people shitting in the streets, homeless everywhere, and projects that are 30, 40, 50, 60 billion dollars that aren't even started. And the money's gone. Sounds like corruption. Anyways, hopefully the feds come in and just strip the California Air Resource Board of their power. It would instantly end all of that madness, and I think everybody in the state of California would be much better off if that happened. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Give the video a big thumbs up if you like what I do. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, stay petty, my friends.